Much. Our next question, also focusing on immigration. Tens of thousands of children from Central America have crossed our border in recent months in what most describe as a humanitarian crisis. Are you confident that children and families facing deportation will receive, quote-unquote, due process in immigration court? And what are 2 or 3 important things you believe need to be done to address the issue? We will begin with Jared Moppin.
Well, I can tell you that before any of my competitors even speculate on the condition of the children down at the border, I led a delegation of civil rights leaders and faith leaders down. We were the first inside of the Nogales Border Processing Center, the first to see the condition that the young people were living in. It was hot. It was not clean. It was not safe. It was a terrible situation. And so, naturally, we called, and the call was echoed by Senator McCain and Senator Flake for FEMA and other groups to coordinate their resources and make conditions livable for these young people who indeed are victims of an economic humanitarian crisis and who had a terrible journey from their home country to the United States. Do I think that they will be afforded due process? I say yes. As they should be. The Constitution of the United States of America is a document that is applied to every person that is here in this country, whether they are citizens of this country or not. It's what makes us different in the world. When you're here, your dignity and worth as a human being should be affirmed, and you should have your day in our immigration court system. I support the $3.7 billion that President Obama is asking to improve the situation down at the border. And I do support due process for every person that is in this country as an alien minor, no matter what country they come from, whether it's Central America, Europe, Canada, Mexico, wherever you're from, treat everyone equally.
Mr. Peñalosa.
Thank you very much. I've been practicing immigration law for almost as long as you've been alive, sir. So during that time period, I represented many minors in immigration court proceedings here in Phoenix, Arizona, before the courts. I know this issue very intricately. There are laws that protect the minors. That's called due process. Some of my colleagues here believe in expedited removal. Expedited removal is not covered under the Constitution. Expedited removal is this: an officer asking you a question where you're from, your age, and do you have a fear of return. What child understands the complexity of those questions? Not a single one. But yet Mary Rose Wilcox and Mr. Moppin and other candidates believe in expedited removal. They just really don't have the answer. So what needs to occur is we need to respect the current laws that we have. We have laws for asylum, we have laws for special immigrant juvenile visas, and we also have laws that promote family reunification. What should the president do immediately? Number one, he should humble himself and go visit with these children. He needs to show leadership there. Number two, he has authority under the Immigration and Nationality Act to support what's called TPS, Temporary Protected Status. The president can do that. And ironically, we have TPS for Honduras, El Salvador, and Nicaragua right now. And these children are coming from 2 of 3 of those countries. So if we have that right now for people in this nation since 1999 who are from El Salvador and Honduras, why can't we have that for their children? They're fleeing the same dangers and violence. And that's what the president needs to do. And once we do that, then as we go along, we can address the solution for these kids.
Ms. Wilcox.
First of all, I don't know where Mr. Peñalosa got his information, but I do not support deportation for these children. There is a law that was passed in 2002 and again reaffirmed in 2008 that dealt with minors coming into our country without parents or without any guardians. That bill in 2008 excluded Mexicanos and Canadian children. I did not support that. But the law is the law, and now Republicans are trying to change that and say, let's do a new law. Matt Salmon has introduced a bill that would make border agents responsible for the decision whether to deport or give refugee status, and that is just wrong, dead wrong. These people are trained in security. They're not trained in the judicial law that they need to be, and President Obama is asking for money for humanitarian care for these children and also to make sure there are enough administrative law judges to adjudicate them. I firmly believe that if the due process is given, we will have an opportunity to put these children into refugee status, and they will be given their due process. Many will be reunited with their families. But one thing I'm very strong on, the death trains have to stop. It is ridiculous what is happening, And we cannot stand by as the greatest nation in the world and stand for it. We must put a stop to it.
Mr. Camacho.
This is a moral dilemma with moral implications no matter which way you go on this issue. And for me, I think we need to strike a balance. I believe in due process, and I believe these children are entitled to due process. According to a recent study, between 40 to 60% of those applying for political asylum will be able to gain political asylum. Unfortunately, that will mean that some will have to go back that do not qualify. That is a tough thing to see. This is why I also favor President Obama's allocation of $254 million for Central America for infrastructure, for crime fighting, and for humanitarian aid. The other thing to consider is what poverty is doing throughout Latin America. Poverty is violent, it's oppressive, and inhumane. And the violence that we're seeing right now, or the violence that I was referring to, is rearing its ugly head with the cartels, with the gangs in El Salvador. And it's unfortunate that we're seeing that. And what is happening is we have a magnetic pull to the north. And as a result, since 1994, over 5,000 men, women, and children have died in our deserts. That is also a humanitarian problem.
Mr. Gallego.
Thank you. First, let's recognize that this is a humanitarian issue and treat it as such. So let's put the money towards stabilizing these young men and young women and young families that are coming to our borders, give them safe housing, safe refuge, so they have an opportunity to basically protect themselves from a very volatile situation that you find in Central America. I don't believe that if we start adding more administrative judges that we're going to see this situation where almost all of them are going to get refugee status. What we have seen in the past, especially with people within the administration, not necessarily the president, is that we have seen actions, we have seen orders that haven't even been carried through. And I'm afraid that if we actually put more judges, instead of letting it go through the regular process, letting Central America stabilize, that you're going to see more deportations happening, because when it comes to government, unfortunately, sometimes government sees the world as a bunch of nails, and all they have is a hammer. And that's what they're going to see when it comes to immigration. So if we add more administrative judges, there's no possible way that we can deny that there's going to be more deportations. So in the meantime, treat it like a humanitarian issue. We've done this in the past with other nationalities, Cuban nationalities, European nationalities, giving refugee status. We have a history of that in the United States. Why are we suddenly going to change that?